Hi! Welcome to Coms PH. Ngayon, ang pag-uusapan naman natin ay Introduction to Programming Language. Every day, we are using different kinds of software or applications like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Microsoft Office, Gmail, browsers, Google, Mozilla, Opera, and those are different kinds of example that were developed using programming language. So what is a programming language? It is used to develop software programs, scripts, or other sets of instructions for computers to execute. So, ginawa yung mga software applications na yon gamit ang mga programming language. So, each programming language has its own syntax. Ano nga ba pag sinabing syntax sa programming language? There are different kinds of programming language like PHP, Python, JavaScript na ma-mention natin later. Example natin yung tatlong yun, JavaScript, PHP, and Python. Each programming language has its own syntax. Ibig sabihin ng syntax, meron silang sari-sariling protocol or rules. Si JavaScript may sarili siyang rule, si PHP may sarili siyang rule, si Python may sarili siyang rule. So, yung rules na yon, dinedefine or kinokontrol niya yung structure, yung punctuations, yung symbols, yung words sa loob ng programming language na yon. So, here is an example of syntax. Without syntax, it will be impossible for the computer to execute the program kasi hindi niya maiintindihan. So, syntax is important. Now, what is a source code? So, source code is the text that the programmer typed in the text editor following the protocol of that specific programming language. So, it is the code to create the program. So, this one is an example of source code. Itong example ko kanina, this is also an example of source code. Ayan, so it's a code used to create a program written using the protocol. Kung matatandaan niyo last year, di ba nag-HTML and nag-CSS kayo? So, pwede niyo sabihin na yon ay code. Or dun sa tag na may ganyan, tapos code yung nasa loob. Lahat ng ilalagay nyo sa pagitan ni opening tag na code and closing tag na code, siya ay computer code. Don't get confused. So, sa programming language, pag sinabing source code, it is the code used to create the program. So, sometimes, pag sinabing code, like for example, sa hardware, anong code ng hardware na yan? Pwedeng ang nire-refer doon ay yung identification number, yung model number, or yung serial number ng hardware na yon. Kapag naman sa mga software, for example, yung operating system na ginagamit nyo, bawa Windows yan, yung software na Microsoft Office, ano yung activation code para doon? So, iba yon, no? Iba yung source code na sinasabi dito sa programming language, iba yung code na sinasabi doon. So, wag kayong mako-confuse. So, ayan. HTML source code used to generate a web page on a browser. So, ayan. Familiar ba ito sa inyo? So, ito yung ginawa natin last year. So, you can also say that this is a code or a source code. Ayan. What is a machine language? So, machine language sometimes referred to as machine code or object code. So, ano yon? Yung 0 and yung 1. If you can still remember. Ayan. So, it is a collection of binary digits or bits. Collection. Okay? Collection of binary digits or bits. So, ito yung nire-read and ini-interpret ng ating computer. So, kung matatandaan ninyo, yung 0 and 1 or yung machine language, it is the only language that our computer understand. So, anong kinalaman nun sa programming language? So, mamaya, ipapaliwanag ko sa inyo. Okay, so, usually, maririnig niyo yung word na compile or compiler sa programming. So, ano ba pag sinabing compile? So, it is the process of creating an executable program from code written in a compiled programming language. So, there is a diagram here. For example, you created a software using C programming language. So, meron kang source code na finallow mo yung syntax ng C programming language. Tapos mo na. So, kinompile mo na yung program na ginawa mo. And then, i-convert siya ni compiler into binary code. Bakit? Bakit ginawa yun? Kasi di ba yung binary code, yun yung machine language, yun yung language na naiintindihan lang ng ating mga computers. And then, nagkaroon ka na ng file. Nung na-compile mo na siya, meron ka ng file. Example, yung program na ginawa mo ay game. tictactoe.exe. Okay? Yun yung ginawa mo na program. So, ginamit mo yung C programming language, ginamit mo yung programming language na yon, kinompile siya into binary code. So, na-produce niya yung tictactoe.exe. Kasi nire-read na siya nung computer mo. So, magpo-produce siya ng output. And, tatandaan nyo, kapag ang program ay kinompile, meron lang siyang specific. For example, nag-compile ka ng .exe, so yun ay pwede mong i-run sa mga computer. Kapag ang kinompile mo ay .apk, ibig sabihin, pwede siya sa cellphone or sa Android. So, ganon pag nagko-compile. Okay, now, what is an interpreter? So, interpreter is another term na lagi nating naririnig sa programming. So, it reads the program and executes it on the fly. So, meron kasing mga interpreted programming language na hindi mo siya kailangang i-compile para siya ay ma-execute mo or ma-run mo. Okay? So, how does interpreter works? Meron akong ipapanood sa inyo na video, no? Para mas malinaw. Okay?
When you land in the world of computers with their strange, convoluted machine language, it's a bit like landing on another planet, whose inhabitants speak an equally strange, convoluted alien language. Getting a mechanic on planet Gobbledygook to repair your spaceship would present the same sort of problem that you have when you want to get a computer to do something. Everything you say has to be translated. And you have a choice between two different sorts of translator. One of them is called an interpreter, and the other is called a compiler. Let's suppose that you've previously written out your list of instructions for the repair of your spaceship. And suppose that you choose the interpreter to do the translating. He reads your first instruction, open lid of rocket engine, translates this into gobbledygook, and immediately passes it on to the mechanic, who executes the instruction. Then the interpreter reads your second instruction, remove spark plug, translates this into gobbledygook, and passes it on to the mechanic, who executes it. And so on and so forth. Now, notice how the interpreter works. He stays with you all the time, and he translates each of your instructions immediately, one by one. This is a rather slow process, because the mechanic has to wait while each instruction is being translated. But, on the other hand, it does give you a chance to correct your mistakes as you go along. If the mechanic removes the wrong spark plug, for instance, you'll see this happen right away, and you'll be able to change your instruction accordingly. Compare this with the way the second sort of translator, the compiler, goes about his work. He takes your complete list of instructions and without further ado translates the whole lot straight into gobbledygook. He then hands them back to you and goes away, leaving you all on your own. All this has taken some time, but from now on things will go very fast. You hand the complete list of gobbledygook to the mechanic, and he executes them all in one go. Bang, bang, bang. There's no waiting about this time. But there's one disadvantage to this, of course. If there was a mistake in your instructions, it's too late now. This analogy comes very close to the way the interpreter and compiler translator programs actually work with computers. An interpreter runs slowly, starts right away, and lets you see how things are going. Whereas a compiler takes extra preparation time before your program can run, but then lets it run very quickly and efficiently. To help you remember the difference between an interpreter and a compiler, look at the words themselves. Inter means between. The interpreter is always between your program and the computer, and it translates line by line. To compile, on the other hand, means to pile together. A compiler piles together your entire program and translates the whole thing all at once. Which one you use on Planet Gobbledygook is entirely up to you.
Okay. So, ayan. I hope na naging mas malinaw yung interpreter and yung compiler dun sa pinakita kong video. If you still have questions and medyo nagugulahan pa rin kayo, you can comment down below or you can chat in our GC. Okay? What is a text editor? So, it is a software program that allows user to create or manipulate plain text computer files. So, these are some of the examples of text editor. So, maybe you are familiar with Notepad, and Sublime, but there are many others. So, dito, tinatype yung ating source code para makapag-create tayo ng program. So, what are the types of programming language? So, the first one is the high-level language. So, this language is more of like human language. So, malapit siya sa human language, kaya naiintindihan natin siya. So, ito naman, para maintindihan siya ng ating computers, kailangan natin siyang i-compile para siya ay mag-run sa ating mga computers. Examples of programming language na high-level language ay Java, C++, ayan, Python, PHP, Visual Basic, ayan, JavaScript, Python, ayan, Perl. So, and marami pang iba, no? So, yan yung mga example natin ng high-level language. The low-level language naman, ito yung mga malapit na sa machine code or malapit na sa machine language. Ayan, ganito yung example niya. So, yung kanina na nasa simula nung PowerPoint na to, yun ay example ng high-level language. Pag low-level language, ito na yung assembly language or yung machine code. So, ganito na yung itsura niya. Mas mahirap to kasi kailangan deeper yung knowledge mo sa machine language. So, ayun. Next is the object-oriented programming language. So, dito, parang yung mga programming language na sa high-level language, ayun yung mga programming language na OOP. So, dito kasi, reusable yung components and they can share properties and behaviors. And last is the scripting languages. So, ito kasi ay merong series of commands na na-execute siya and hindi mo na siya kailangang i-compile para ma-execute mo. So, alam ko naiintindihan niyo ako kasi nagamit yung tattoo before. So, yung HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, PHP. So, this is the example of scripting language. I hope may mga natutunan kayo sa video na to. If you have questions, you can comment down below or you can message in our group chat. Yun lang. Thank you so much. Bye!